This video is for educational purposes and protected by fair use copyright law. If you report this video for erroneous reasons, we will find you. Enjoy! What is the worst thing to happen to you in a strategy game? Losing. You devote many hours of your leisure time, stay up till 3 in the morning with 9 a.m. classes, only to be left broken and beaten. In an action-oriented game, the most you lose is 10 minutes of your time, and it just means your reflexes aren't as good as some kid you met online. But to lose a strategy game where everything rides on intellect, it stings. So how do you not lose? The key to strategy gaming success is right under your nose. Good game developers will often draw their inspiration from reality. That includes strategy games. So in order to develop a logic that can be applied anywhere, I will draw from Taoist philosophy, which encompasses great thinkers like Sun Tzu and Lao Tzu. Now, before I continue, there are some trends I have noticed in strategy game battles that I believe would be helpful if I took the time to point them out. Now, this isn't set in stone, but there's a tendency for strategy game battles to play out kind of like this. There are 3 stages: escalation, grind, and then there's the fox hunt. Escalation occurs towards the beginning of the game. Players scramble for resources and a more advantageous position on the battlefield, and these early game actions will often determine what occurs in the grind. The grind occurs when 2 opposing players collide. Depending on the overall strengths of the players will determine how long the grind lasts. The greater the distance between their strengths, the quicker the grind. Eventually, one player will be the obvious victor before the battle is even over. This is the fox hunt. It ceases to be a battle, but a merciless mop-up operation of the stronger hunting the weaker, like a fox hunter giving chase to a fox. This cycle is just the result of my observations online, and is not set in stone. It'd be best not to plan around it, but to baffle it. That's where the mention of wolves comes from. To be the wolf, could have been any animal really, is to change the nature of the game. Like letting your opponent assume that it's a knife fight, but then you bring your gun. The cycle operates under the assumption of battles being head-to-head confrontations. A hallmark of Taoist thinking is to challenge a problem indirectly, rather than tackling it head-on. Alexander the Great taught his men not to confront a chariot charge head-on, but to sidestep it. Now, I hope my brother's not watching this video, given the depth of our sibling rivalry. When we used to play Versus, there was always that risk of things getting physically violent. Nowadays, we have a gentleman's agreement only to play co-op. But back when we used to play Versus, there was a few golden moments. One of which was a really good case study for this video, and illustrates exactly what I'm talking about. Funny enough, it came in a first-person shooter. Me and my brother and 2 friends were playing Halo Reach. The game mode was Slayer, which meant our team had to get 50 kills to win. It was me and John. Yeah, sorry. I couldn't help it. I just had to. Anyway, back to the video. It was us versus my brother and Will. We were playing a map called The Spire, which featured a massive battlefield with a spire in the center. My brother and Will had camped out in the spire. Any attempt to attack it immediately resulted in us getting seriously wrecked. It was absolutely embarrassing. We only had 20 out of the 50 kills needed, and they only needed 10 to win. It was that fox hunt stage I mentioned. Brute force was obviously not winning this battle, so I had to take a strategic approach. The flow of the game put us on the offensive, and my brother on the defensive. This put us at a disadvantage, so instead, we decided to wait until they got bored. My brother and Will got an attack helicopter to try and smoke us out, only to be ambushed by me using a combination of launch pads and a jetpack. I hit the mid-air with a grenade launcher, like a demented game of whack-a-mole, where the mole fights back. You still have your hammer, but the mole's got a gun.
Surprise, motherfucker!
What really brought home the fact that the tables turned was when John tells me he's in the spire. They straight up abandoned it. So I meet him in the spire, and my brother and Will spent the last of their lives trying to get it back. How the story applies to strategy? In the battle, we were losing when I was letting my brother and his friend control where we fight and how we move. We started winning when we stopped letting ourselves being moved by the enemy and started moving the enemy ourselves. In the way tactics become like a martial art, much in the way a judo master grapples with his opponent. Speaking of martial arts, whatever virtual army you're controlling, you should have the same amount of control over it as you would have over your player character or your own body. Instead of having them all lumped into one force, have them attack different targets all at the same time. Sounds a bit chaotic, but chaos is your friend. You simultaneously move your arms and legs all the time. It should be no different. Take a more hit and fade approach if you can't attack your opponent directly. Much like during that battle I mentioned. It evens the playing field when your opponent's stronger than you. And it lets them continue to think that they are stronger. That's how I was able to trick my brother into thinking that they could attack the spire and get it back. They were on the supposed advantage for most of the battle. Even when we were winning, it was technically the fox hunt stage, like a hunter chasing a canine silhouette on the horizon, thinking it was a fox only to be face to face with a rabid wolf. To quote Sun Tzu, if your opponent's of choleric temper, seek to irritate him, pretend to be weak, so that he may grow arrogant. For that matter, why even let your opponent get stronger than you? Why not smash them while they're still trying to get their stuff together? There's a reason why the Zerg Rush is so famous. If you harass your opponent while they don't have the ability to fight back, they'll be too busy fending you off to get powerful. Hit them early, when they're not prepared, and appear where least expected. In short, don't attack your problems directly. Chaos is your friend. Act erratically and with spontaneity. Hide your strength and your plans. Hit and run early in the game. Do this and keep your opponent on the defensive, but leave them guessing where the next attack will come from, thus not being able to properly entrench in one location. I once watched a recorded play session between two Age of Empires 2 masters, the champions for Germany, Sweden, Norway, I forget which two countries exactly. They did what I had talked about above, both of them. It's like watching a time-lapse of two opposing coral polyps trying to eat each other. Buildings rose and fell like the tides. Groups of soldiers acted as if they were given their own agency, rather than being controlled by one person. In the larger battles, smaller battles formed over empty patches of grass, whose purpose is unknown only to those two combatants that fought tooth and nail for it. I forget which country won, but I remember it ending quite abruptly when one side, which was seemingly faring just as well as the other, ran out of resources. As quickly as they arrived, the losers' armies evaporated. This was different from any battle I had witnessed before. These were not some disconnected chess pieces moving in a neat turn-by-turn basis, but two minds locked in mortal hand-to-hand combat. The game was merely a vestigial object used to allow these two clashing intellects to fight directly with each other. In the beginning, I dichotomized the difference between games that mirror action/body-based combat, but the distinction between these two completely disappeared. Mind and body became one, and the nature of the game itself was forever changed. I wanna be the hunter, not the hunted. I wanna be the king.